Rev up your chainsaws, everyone. We have the Evolution of LeatherFace. My god, I am so sorry for that intro. From the 1974 classic to the 2022 remake. As you can tell by this list right here, we have a crap ton to go through, so let's just jump right in with the original. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get right to it. So in 1974, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was released. And I say it like that because chain and saw are actually not one word here. It's actually two words here. I don't know why they did this, but that doesn't matter. This film introduced us to the infamous Leatherface. The first mask we ever see in this series is like a grayish brownish skin tone with like a metal wire in its mouth. It also has large misformed ears, dark hair, and is paired with an apron and a tie. This is the mask that he primarily wears when he's butchering meat for the Sawyer family's barbecue. Here's a little fun fact for you. He mostly kills in this movie due to fear. Unlike the most recent film, which I have a feeling is going to be the last one, he killed out of anger in that one. But we'll get to that later. Later on in the film, he dresses up in a more grandmotherly-esque attire. This is the skin of an old woman with gray hair and is paired with an apron. This one's like the domesticated one, the servant, the one that takes the most of the Sawyer family's abuse. I personally don't care for most of the old lady masks, so let's just move on to the Pretty Woman mask. I actually had a very unpopular opinion about the Texas Chainsaw Next Generation Pretty Woman mask, but we'll get to that in just a second. We're focusing on the one from the original. This is basically just a white mask that is just smothered, like it's just covered in makeup. It has like a dark suit and tie with black hair. And remember when I said that I had an unpopular opinion about the one from Next Generation? I have changed my opinion. And like I said earlier, we'll get to that in a minute. At the end of this film, Leatherface chases Sally down a dirt road and then falls over and cuts his leg with his chainsaw. Fun fact, the chainsaw dance that he did towards the end of the film was actually entirely improvised. None of that was in the script. Unpopular opinion, I actually don't really like this film. I really kind of prefer the remake, actually. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's go ahead and move on to the sequel. Okay, out of the original timeline, the sequel is actually my favorite. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This time, chain and saw are in fact one word. This time, he is referred to as Bubba. Now, I freaking love the mask here. I like to refer to this one as the Frankenstein mask. That's because of the fact that this is a like heavily stitched mask with like messy hair, and it's like, it looks really derpy and really goofy, and I freaking love it. In this movie, Leatherface, who is supposed to be a blank, emotionless face, kind of like Michael Myers, fell in love with a radio DJ, but was forbidden to see her by the family. Bunch of jerks, if you ask me. At the end of this film, they got into a chainsaw fight, and then an explosion went off that literally no one could have survived. But somehow he survived the explosion in order to make it to the third movie. Honestly, not a huge fan of the third film, but I do really like the mask in this movie. And also in this photo right here, you can see that he's actually holding the golden chainsaw he gets like halfway through the movie. I like that. Like, I love the golden chainsaw. This mask is a mask that I like to refer to as the Gina mask, since it originally was the face of a girl named Gina. We saw her die at the beginning of the movie. Hey, I forgot to mention, first off, the mask is a lot more decayed, even though it is a relatively fresh mask. Also, they refer to this Leatherface as Junior. I don't know why they decided to change his name, but I just feel like it's important to mention. Also, he got hit in the head with a rock at the end of the movie, and I think this was supposed to be his downfall, but we all know it wasn't. Now, probably my favorite part about this mask is that if you look closely on his right cheek, I think, you can actually see a small flower tattoo. On Gina's right cheek, there was actually a small flower tattoo. I love the fact that they kept that in, and it's such a great detail. Should I even do Next Generation, honestly? Because I don't really care for this film, honestly. That's primarily because this film kind of screwed up the continuity. I guess they kind of did that anyway, with the fact that family members are constantly changing in past three. Like the original was the three brothers and the grandfather, and then the sequel had another brother, and the mother was introduced in the third one. I have no idea what the frick they were doing there. By the way, be sure to comment who your favorite character is. Mine is personally Chop Top from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Honestly, I just think he's freaking hilarious. Okay, apparently I keep forgetting things, because here are a few things I forgot about this one. First off, they refer to this Leatherface as just Leather. Second, he screams a lot. Here is a clip of that.
Shut up!
Third, it ends very similarly to the original. And fourth, and probably the weirdest of them all, they make it look like he was a part of like an Illuminati organization. That makes no sense. The real story behind it is that they're just crazy. You know what? Screw it. Let's do it. So in the Texas Chainsaw Next Generation, we got 3 masks once again. First one is also referred to as the Killing Mask. I freaking hate this mask. It's probably my least favorite in the entire franchise. If you want me to do an entire ranking of these masks, let me know, and I will make another video of me ranking them. This mask is just boring, honestly. And what's with the hair? Does he have like a mullet or something? But if we go on over to the old lady mask, I guess it's not a mullet, because like you can still see the back of the hair, but it's like replaced with like gray wig, I guess. This mask is also fitted with earrings and pearls. And in my Leatherface mask tier list, link will be in the iCard if you want to go check that out, I actually said that I really liked the Pretty Woman mask in this movie. I want to change my opinion on that, because the more and more I see this thing, the more and more I hate it, and I want it to burn in the bowels of hell. You know what? I want to talk about a good movie. Let's move on to the remake. Okay. You guys already know, the remake is my personal favorite. This mask is kind of similar to the original, I guess. Not really. It's much grayer. The hair is, I guess, a lot more, like, patchy. I mean, he has, like, 2 freaking scalps in his hair. It also has, like, a furrow brow and, like, this Joker-like smile. This is probably the scariest Leatherface, honestly. And that's one of the reasons why I love it. He also briefly wore the Kemper mask. We call it that because of the fact that he killed Kemper and made a mask out of his skin. I don't really like this mask because it kind of looks like it's mostly the eyes. Like, when you can see the eyes through it, it kind of looks like you're just trying to draw their face from memory. And everybody knows that never actually ends up looking good. Real quick, I want to point out the fact that this kid right here, his name is Jedediah. Not including the remakes, the name of Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw 3D onward actually takes inspiration from this dude. By the way, I forgot to mention Leatherface's name in this movie is Thomas Hewitt. This movie also discussed that his face was disfigured due to a birth defect, and he was made fun of as a child for it, and I think that's a freaking awesome backstory. You guys can let me know in the comments what you guys think about it. So the remake prequel came out a couple years later and was also referred to as The Beginning. It basically brought us through Leatherface's upbringing, such as like the fact that he used to wrap his face in bandages and eventually used this muzzle looking thing that was made of like a cowhide. I don't like this film as much as I love the other one, but I like it. And I especially love the mask that he uses towards the end of the movie. This mask was made of the skin of Eric. And this is what I think when somebody mentions Leatherface's masks. Because it's like he's that blank, emotionless face. Like I said, like Michael Myers. And I feel like this mask perfectly achieves that. Eventually, in 2013, the remakes would be dropped to make a direct sequel to the original. This movie was called Texas Chainsaw 3D. The beginning part is supposed to take place right after the ending of the original. Now, I don't see it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Now, it gives us flashbacks and stuff, and I do appreciate that, but it has a completely different looking Pretty Woman mask from the original. Listen, if it's supposed to take place right after, the Pretty Woman mask is supposed to look like this, but instead it looks like this. You see what I'm getting at here? Later on in the film, he actually gets a version of the Killing mask, like this movie's equivalent of that. And honestly, it just looks like some freaking... He looks like he just wrapped his head in like potato skin and just deep fried his own head. And for the longest time, I didn't know this, but there was actually technically a second Killing mask. I'm pretty sure it was made from the skin of the sheriff. I guess this one is slightly lighter compared to the other one. I don't really know. Let's just move on to the prequel. I just want to point out that at the beginning of the prequel, he actually wore a cow head on his head. Now, the prequel, Leatherface, released in 2017, actually follows similar continuity to the 3D film. Much like the beginning film of the remakes, this film also brought us through Leatherface's upbringing, such as the fact that his family is a bunch of psychopaths, and the fact that apparently he wore a freaking cow head as a kid. Like, why does this have to be a thing? PETA, cover up your eyes. He later was taken away from his family and had to stay in a insane asylum. He had his name changed from Jedediah to Jackson, and he eventually broke out with a nurse named Lizzie. He would also eventually get shot in the cheek, and his mother had to like stitch his face open, giving him like the Heath Ledger Joker scars. And he had to wear this muzzle for about 2 seconds of the film. But apparently this might have like dislodged something in his brain, because he then later would go to kill Lizzie and make a mask out of her skin. And honestly, this film is not the greatest, but this is freaking chilling, man. This is how I feel like they should introduce each mask. Like, because this actually does look like human skin and is legitimately creepy. Can we just go ahead and move on to the next one, please? Last film in the franchise, guys. We got the 2022 remake, direct sequel, whatever you want to refer to it as. This movie is technically a direct sequel to the original. I personally don't see how it could be, but whatever, I digress. At the very beginning of this movie, we see that Leatherface has carried on a legacy, and he no longer wears the mask that he wore in 1974. Instead, we see a much older, maskless Leatherface, Jedediah Sawyer, whatever you want to call him. And he's been staying in an orphanage for God knows how long. The orphanage's owner, Mrs. McCumber, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not, actually, took care of him. And he loved her. He loved her a lot. And upon her death, he then cut her face off and wore it as a mask. Now, I don't remember her having that big of a forehead, so this might be one of the weaker links in terms of the masks. Be sure to let me know what your thoughts on this movie was. I personally found it kind of underrated. I actually really liked it. And that's it. The original film came out in 1974 and introduced us to Leatherface, a deranged killer who wears a mask made out of human skin. Be sure to let us know what you guys think of the franchise, and let us know what you guys' favorite film in the franchise was. Mine is obviously the 2003 remake. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, this is Miner signing off for now. I love you guys, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.